Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast is a Christ-centered podcast. Established in 2019 and hosted weekly by Pastor Chris Buscher. Addressing a host of topics such as the Great Commission, Christian discipleship, and often featuring interviews with special guests who are experts in their field. The views and events expressed on this podcast and all related materials belong solely to their author and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. While all attempts are made to present accurate information, some information may become outdated over time. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast makes every attempt to timely update any and all such information. Without further delay, here's another powerful episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Faith and Family Fellowship. I'm your host. My name is Pastor Chris Buscher. I'm up here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. The sun is shining. It's just a wonderful day out there today. But you're not here on this podcast to hear me talk about the weather or hear me brag about how beautiful it is up here in the Pacific Northeast or Northwest. You're here because we have a very special guest and you're excited for it. This is Dr. Shaun Jester. He's the author of Spiritual CPR, Recognizing and Intervening When a Christian is in Crisis. So many more things that we're actually going to be getting involved here on this podcast episode. I'm actually pretty excited about this. It's going to be a little bit longer than some of our normal ones because of the type of guest that we have on here today who has an amazing story, who's going to be able to share it with us. And I'd encourage everybody, just take a step back, relax, and enjoy this podcast that we have coming up here. So without any further delay, Dr. Shaun, how are you doing here today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Dr. Shaun, where are you joining us from here in the world today?
I am living here in Dumas, Texas.
Okay.
In the north square of Texas, basically gas, cattle, and farm.
Yeah, good old West Texas area, huh? I recently moved up from Northeast Texas myself, so right outside of Paris area. So kind of a huge difference between Texas and up here where I'm at in the mountains. But how's the weather? I imagine is pretty good down there today, huh?
It's good, just nice and very hot.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. Now, the first question that we always ask all of our listeners or all of our guests that come on the show is we want to get to know you a little bit better. We want to know why you have this hope inside of you, why you believe in Jesus. If you could just share a little bit about that and a little bit of your journey with us, that would be great.
Sure. Well, I was raised in a Christian home. Dad is in the military. They moved like 17 times in 12 years. I went with them on several of those moves. When I was 7 was the first time, basically, I made a commitment to the Lord. And then when I was at a youth camp around 12, rededicated that, married my wife. And basically, when I was in my late 40s, I would say made my theology and belief system my own and rededicated to the Lord, was baptized a third time, and but that one was the one I take very seriously. I really studied the scriptures myself, read through the whole Bible, and feel like that. Very grateful the Lord has provided a way to save us from all the craziness around us.
Yeah, and it is kind of a crazy world that we live in today's world, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So much.
Now, let me ask you: is this your first book out here? The CPR. Now, when did this book get published? Tell me a little bit of the story behind this for me.
So the book actually got published a couple days ago. The launch date is August 15th.
Yeah.
But if I had English teachers, probably the ones that have passed away, if they knew I'd written a book, would be rolling around in their grave right now because definitely more engineering and math, science than type of English. But the Lord laid this on my heart about 20 months ago. I had done a few different lessons for church, especially with my career and, talking to groups on abortion and things of that nature. And they just kind of turned into chapters and then polished into a whole book. So,
yeah. Excellent. Well, I'm glad that we're able to get you here on this podcast just a couple days after your book did get published. I have been looking at it online, and you already got a couple really great reviews. I don't know if you noticed that already, just with it being a very new book. So you're already starting to get some really good feedback here. Without taking too much time with it. Have you gotten any more feedback apart from what I'm already seeing here online?
We got some editorial reviews. I'm not sure if they've made it onto the line yet, but
okay.
One's from the Titan Review and one's from another lady. And basically she said she was raised in a church where the people running the church were worse than the friends of Job. And she just felt like how glad she was to see a new take on showing the mercy and grace of God, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me ask you this, because I know there's a lot of our listeners right now. They hear this title, and the title of the book is Spiritual CPR, Recognizing and Intervening When a Christian is in Crisis. Tell me a little bit about this book. Give me kind of the general idea.
Sure. Well, CPR is basically what we would do, if a person's having crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of people have learned to do, chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And the concept is basically this: you don't want to wait till a person is having a physical crisis to learn how to take care of them.
Yeah.
And with all the medical training, it kind of fit in with my spiritual belief to same thing. You don't want to wait until a spiritual crisis is occurring to figure out how in the world you're going to handle it. So the book deals with basically 8 spiritual crises. First one is pornography. Second one is infidelity. Third is pornography. Third is abortion, elective abortion. Fourth is LGBTQIA lifestyle. Basically things like that, if one of those things occurs in your friends or in your church, are you ready to handle it? Yeah. So you don't want it to be happening before you decide, how am I going to save this situation? Yeah. You don't want to be using a textbook to look at how to rescue a person from a heart attack when the heart attack's happening. You're too late.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are some pretty, I hate to even use the word controversial, because they shouldn't be controversial topics for a believer in 2026. But, as estranged as the church has become the last several years, these topics have become kind of hot topic issues and almost controversial, if you will, within the body of Christ. If we could just take a few minutes kind of discussing some of these. I know that you mentioned you have 8 of these. Is that correct? Was it 8 or 12? 8.
8.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I imagine in each of these chapters that you have in the book, you address these in pretty good detail and how to overcome this and how to be able to help a friend or another brother or sister in Christ.
So each chapter starts with a scenario.
Okay.
And it kind of makes the person think, okay, if this happened, what would I do with this?
Yeah.
Then we talk about the secular aspect of it. So how does pornography affect people, for instance, secularly?
Yeah.
And then what does the Bible have to say on this topic? And then we'll go back to the scenario and we'll apply an acronym called WASH PIGS, which is basically the version of CPR, or ACLS, or whatever acronym you want to use, but it's the one we use to address the situation. And once we walk through that, then we just go through practical thoughts, resources that the people can use, basically, and we do that same process through every chapter.
Yeah.
So basically the same skeleton to help them work through it. But each one, has questions that could be used for Bible studies, things like that. So the goal is not to replace the Bible in any way. It's basically to point people right back to it.
You're listening to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
We've all heard of the separation between church and state, but now your church can help avoid the taxation the government demands. The tax plan will help you save year after year. Go to African American Trust for all of your financial needs. The cost of the plan itself is tax deductible, and when purchased through your church is rewarded. So you win and your church wins. Find more information by searching africanamericantrust.us.
Are you feeling spiritually stuck, emotionally exhausted, or even unsure of your purpose? John O.T. Logotherapy offers a faith-centered, scripture-based approach to healing, clarity, and personal transformation. Through biblical guidance, prayer, reflection, and programs like the Inner Man Activation, Dr. John O.T. helps people pursue healing from the inside out and rediscover the purpose God has placed within them. Learn more about Dr. John O.T., his programs, his books, and of course, upcoming events at johnotlogotherapy.com. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think these 8 topics that you're mentioning right here are ones that are absolutely vital for any believer. It doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, no matter how many years they've been following Jesus. These are topics that anybody could benefit from learning about and learning how to overcome and learning how to be able to help another believer be able to overcome. Let me ask you this, because I know if somebody that we know is kind of caught in the middle of one of these sins or one of these traps here, the more natural response for kind of a newer and immature believer or someone that's not as strong in their faith is to almost kind of walk away. It's kind of, just maybe it's just say a prayer from a distance and not really intervene. Why do you think we should handle this differently? And if so, how should we handle this differently?
Sure. Well, I do think there's a spiritual warfare component that people don't want to pay attention to nowadays, but I think some people are afraid that if they get involved, they're going to basically, for lack of a better term, get the spiritual cooties. Like that. They're afraid of what other people might think about them if they get involved. They're going to have to go to a messy place with that person and help them get back out of it. And I think they just, chapter 8 is apathy, and it's actually talking back on the person themselves. So you work from helping the other person. By the end of the book, you're looking in the mirror at yourself. And I think part of the problem is there's a huge apathy issue right now. So,
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And with your book, again, you're talking about some serious topics here. You're talking about pornography, affairs, abortion, sexuality, estrangement, all these different chronic sins. A lot of people, they'd be a little bit afraid to kind of tackle all of these in one book. Maybe they just write one book about one topic specifically, but it seems like for your very first book, you're ripping apart the Band-Aid, not leaving any trace of it left. How did you get the courage to be able to do that, and why did you think it was so important to tackle all these at once?
You're right. So each of the 8, you're correct. Every single one of those is huge. And honestly, the book, it doesn't take on all of them in totality. Each one could be its own book in itself, or multiple books.
Yeah.
The goal in this, like I said, was just a framework to help the average person, or even someone that's a preacher or pastor in leadership, a framework to how to approach the situation.
Yeah.
So you can take, it can be those 8 or 8 others, and you can still apply the wash picks to it and try to get it. So mine was more just, here's how you apply that acronym to this situation.
Yeah.
So it's just a way to approach all the trials.
Yeah. And now, sorry, go ahead, doctor.
And most of those particular 8, I've been involved in several of those personally, like that I've seen patients or in my own life. So
yeah, I was just going to be asking about that, because I know you're a strong man of God. You have your strong faith. You've swam in these scriptures. You studied these scriptures, but it seems like your book and the topics and the way that you're handling this, you're not only just coming at it from a biblical perspective, but also from your medical expertise. From the OBGYN side of things. Do you do that for all the different topics here in this book, or mostly just for the abortion side of it as well?
I would say pretty much for all of the topics, every single one. I've had LGBTQ2 patients, and the situations they have come in. I've seen estrangements, in my life and other people's lives. I've seen tragedies. But yes, I feel like we use it in most of the chapters.
Yeah. Now, I feel like that gives you kind of a unique perspective to be able to see it from various different angles, to be able to target it and ultimately point people right back to the scriptures themselves. Let me ask you if we could kind of talk about elective abortion real quick, if we could, for just a couple moments. I know that you mentioned this in your book, but also I feel like maybe you have a little bit of experience with this topic as well. You were personally involved with federal challenge with the FDA. Is that correct? Could you kind of touch on this a little bit for us? Kind of tell us the story.
Sure. For years I've been involved in science and life, and your evolution versus not evolution versus creation versus many different things. As far as abortion goes, I believe life begins at conception.
Yeah.
You've got a sperm and an egg, and I don't want to get too technical, but basically they come up with an original copy of a brand new cell. And once that happens, you got a unique living being. And I believe that's when life begins. So before it's ever implanted in the uterus and it's going down the fallopian tube, I believe it's a unique individual.
Yeah.
So for me, that's when life begins. I think it's very important. And there's several in the book. There's several examples of people who are called in the womb. So I think that states when life starts. So as far as I believe we're created in God's image. So the same thing. Life is very important. As far as the abortion case, back in June 24th of 2022, the Supreme Court did something quite incredible. They reversed Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
And it's almost been 50 years where basically the right to an abortion was legal. There's no problem with it. And when they reversed it, they reversed it back to the state. So they didn't say it was illegal. They just said every state can make up their own decision.
Yeah.
So with that, about that time, about 39% of abortions were chemical abortions, where you take the pill and induce an abortion.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's probably 60% plus. And so the thought was how to approach this new situation. So if you want to go over the abortion pill a second, it's a 2-pill process, or two types of pills. One is mifepristone. People know it as RU486.
Okay.
And when you take that pill, it basically blocks progesterone. And the easiest way to describe that is when a lady is on birth control and they stop progesterone that last week, the placebo week, they shed their lining of their uterus. They have their period. Well, block all the progesterone in a pregnancy, you're going to shed that pregnancy. So all of that pill is to basically destroy the baby. The next pill is Cytotec or misoprostol, and you take that and it pushes the baby out. It induces contractions. So the whole point of me saying all that is they fast-tracked mifepristone through the FDA. Most medicines to get through the Food and Drug Administration take a very long time to get approved. But if you go back and look at the history of that particular drug, incredibly fast how they got it through. It gets into all kinds of politics. I don't want to offend anyone on your show, but they definitely took some shortcuts. And when they did that, not only did they get it through, they went on to remove what's called the REMS. There's 5 of them.
Yeah.
And they basically took all the safety protocols away in doing it. So not only did they fast track it, which is what they're supposed to do to protect the person, or to make sure they took out the protections to protect the person. Then the only things that they did have in 2016, they took those out as well. So, so our argument with the case was, hey, you fast track this drug is not safe. You need to take it back off the market. And that was what the lawsuit was. The reason I was qualified to be in it is I wrote the FDA before that case ever even started with the patient that came to our out here in the middle of nowhere, Dumas.
Yeah.
And she'd gotten the pill across straight lines. She took it. Her parents didn't know. She went on to have retained products of conception because one of the REMs is that she have a follow-up appointment, make sure they got everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she didn't have to have a follow-up appointment. So they didn't get everything out. What she had left got infected. I had to go in, put her on antibiotics, go in and take the rest of it out. Happy to take care of her. That's not the issue. It's just that all of that could have been avoided if it had been done the correct way.
Yeah.
So that was basically the lawsuit. They put a medicine quickly through the market, and now it's affecting thousands and thousands and thousands of people every year still.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you very, very quickly for all the work that you do fighting for the unborn, for their lives. So that's an incredible, noble job. And I couldn't imagine the different things that you've had to see and experience, working through this as a Christian man, just trying to point people back to the light of Christ. So I want to just thank you and encourage you for that. Let me ask you with your book here, because I know we are kind of running out of some time. You talk about some topics, like estrangement and apathy and different things like that. I know that these could be kind of, direct results of holding the line and pointing people back to the Christian principles. Let me ask you, where is the line between intervention and trying to control somebody else's life? How do you justify all of that in your book?
Yeah. To me, this is an incredibly difficult subject, estrangement. Yeah. I think the goal in winning this one is to play the long game.
Yeah.
If you win the battle, it's very possible you're going to lose the war. Mm-hmm. God's really the only one that can solve the problem. So this is one where your faith is going to have to actually be in place. You're going to need to have faith, because it's easy to have the faith when you see things happening. This one may take literally years or decades. And we'll just have to lay it in his hands and trust him. Basically, though, it's not our job to fix it. We have to pray and be ready when that opportunity occurs. We talk about how to use the Wash Pigs acronym to help the person. This is the only chapter where I actually use the Wash Pigs acronym to show you how you can do it wrong. And I have personally done that wrong in a situation in my life. And that's pretty much what's inspired how you can mess it up. So that's why I was saying you can win the battle, but you may lose your friends or family member in the process.
Along the way. Yeah, right. Absolutely. And this is, just with estrangement and everything, that is one of those trending movements that are happening right now. Even on social media, you see all types of people that, completely abandon their family and they just have this huge separation with it. So I'm really glad that you're talking about this topic, because as a pastor, I've had to see the difficult side of it, and both from people that have chosen to be estranged and those that had it happen to them. So I'm really happy to be able to see that you have a chapter of your book specifically targeting this. I do have another question, though, if I can, before we have to finish up this interview. If the people that are finishing this book, they read the book Spiritual CPR, what's the one thing that you hope that they would be able to take away from this book? If they forget about everything else you wrote in that book, what is the one message that you hope and you pray that they are able to receive and walk away from with?
I would hope that they would be madly in love with Christ, where they would be willing to step out of their comfort zone, put their phone down, whatever it is that's eating up all their time, and focus on the people around them. And I really think that if they will focus on their fellow believers around them, recovery ministries of different kinds could start, and true revival and spiritual awakening will occur. And I would hope that they would just have faith, step out, and see what God does with them.
Yeah. Amen. That's the ultimate goal of life. I absolutely love it. I haven't heard a better answer on the show so far, and we're pushing 485 episodes so far. So I love that answer to that question. Once again, for all of our listeners right now, this is Dr. Shaun Jester. He's the author of Spiritual CPR, Recognizing and Intervening When a Christian is in Crisis. I did have one last question, if I could there, Doctor. Where can people connect with you? Do you do social media? Do you prefer a website, or just send everyone to your Amazon page? What's best for you?
Yeah. Believe it or not, I have almost no social media.
Okay.
When I was involved in that lawsuit, they basically told me not to. So that's been like 4 years ago, but it's actually held true pretty much since then. But if they'll go to Amazon and type in Spiritual CPR and Jester, Jester, there'll be the book will come up. It's got an author page, and it's got my bio and a picture and things of that nature.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll make sure to put all that in the show links as well. And I know just if anybody does a Google search on you, Dr. Shaun Jester, there's tons of different news articles and different things already out there about yourself and your book. And so there's tons of ways to be able to get connected with you and be able to encourage you along the way. I do want to encourage all of our listeners here today on Faith and Family Fellowship. I want to encourage you to check out this book. It's by Dr. Shaun Jester. Once again, it's called Spiritual CPR, Recognizing and Intervening When a Christian is in Crisis. So, Dr. Shaun, I want to thank you for joining us here today on Faith and Family Fellowship. I pray that you have such a blessed day, and that it's just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity that this book is able to reach so many different people that desperately need to hear this message.
You've just listened to the Faith and Family Fellowship podcast. Faith and Family Fellowship podcast was recorded live in studio with final editing made before uploading. Subscribe today to Faith and Family Fellowship podcast on iTunes or Google Play. Don't miss the next episode on Faith and Family Fellowship podcast.